Uh-oh. Okay, we'll start with this, our latest set of updates to the women's Ring IQ pound-for-pound list based on this past weekend's action. This past weekend, we saw three-division champion Bektemir pick up the vacant WBC title in the minimum weight division to become a two-time minimum weight champion overall, the byproduct of Senicia Estrada's unexpected retirement. We also saw Gabby Fundora become the flyweight division's first, the inaugural, undisputed flyweight champion in the division. And for that, Bektemir comes in at number 4 and Gabby Fundora comes in at number 9. The reason for it, Bektemir has been a champion at atom weight, at minimum weight, and at light flyweight. She's a three-division champion. She's more than just a girl that Senicia Estrada fought. She's an accomplished fighter. She was already an accomplished fighter with a robust resume in her own right. She was actually already on this list up until Senicia Estrada beat her and took her 2 alphabet titles at this weight. When she did, per the rules that govern the list, no fighter coming right off a loss, absent of a world title, is allowed to maintain a rank. For Bektemir to get back here, she had to rebound off the loss to Senicia Estrada, which she did, and she had to pick up an alphabet title, which she did this past weekend. So she comes in at number 4. And the more alphabet titles she picks up in the minimum weight division, the more ground she will gain. She's already been a champion at more weights than Alicia Baumgartner, a champion at more weights than Natasha Jonas and Michaela Mayer. She's beat practically the same number of champions they have. She beat Thuthi Nguyen for the WBO at minimum weight, and Evelyn Bermudez for the WBO and IBF titles at light flyweight. Same number of champions that Alicia Baumgartner beat. Two. And even if Terry Harper, Natasha Jonas, and Michaela Mayer beat at least one more champion, collected one more champion's scalp than Bektemir did, well, they haven't been champions in as many weights, as many times as Bektemir. So that's what facilitates the argument that she should be ranked at number 4. When it comes to Gabby Fundora becoming the inaugural flyweight undisputed champion, it took her 2 champions' scalps to get there. The first was Mexico's own Arely Mucino for the IBF, and Gabriela Alanis this past weekend for the other 3 titles. She did it very quickly. Only 22 years old. So if she comes in behind Michaela Mayer, Natasha Jonas, and Terry Harper, it's because she's not yet caught up to those fighters and their body of work, their resumes. She's undisputed, and that's very good, but her resume is not yet as robust as theirs. Well, couldn't you say the same thing about Alicia Baumgartner? She's only ever been a champion at one weight, even though she is undisputed. She's only been a champion at super feather. Yes, but she did actually beat Terry Harper. She did actually beat Michaela Mayer. So if she's ranked ahead of them, that's a big part of why. It's not just that she's accomplished. It's not just that she's undisputed. It's that she's actually fought and beat 2 of the fighters on this list. That makes her resume very strong. Stronger, at least right now. Stronger than Gabby Fundora's. The saving grace for Gabby is that she's younger than all those aforementioned fighters. She's younger than Michaela, than Natasha, than Terry, than Alicia. If she's got some catching up to do, she's got a lot of time and a lot of champions available to do it. I don't think she's going to stick around at flyweight much longer. What would be the point? Maybe she defends the undisputed crown once and moves up, but there's a whole host of champions waiting in the super flyweight division, the bantamweight division, and the super bantamweight division. She's at number 9 now. That could change in the coming year. That could change very quickly, just as quick as she became an undisputed champion. That's just as quick as she could do it 2 times in some of the deeper divisions in the sport of women's boxing.
Yes.
Jessica Neri Plata, unified light flyweight champion of Mexico, was ejected from the list due to inactivity. She was the one ranked at number 9 up until yesterday. She hasn't fought at all this calendar year. The last time she was in action was in December of last year opposite the ring Germany's own Sarah Borman. But this year, she didn't fight. And you're not going to be able to maintain a rank on this list with a schedule like that. I know some other periodicals that keep pound-for-pound lists. Maybe they don't factor a fighter's activity rate into it, but this list does.
It matters. You have to fight.
Germany's own Tina Ruprecht, 2-division champion Tina Ruprecht, is going to be returning to action real soon. If she is successful in her endeavor to unify the atom weight division, hold 2 alphabet titles there, having already been a champion at minimum weight, she may be the next fighter that is integrated into the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list. And don't forget that there's a vacancy that's going to be created as a result of the upcoming Taylor versus Serrano fight. The winner stays on. The loser is ejected. Hard to imagine a women's pound-for-pound list without a Katie Taylor or an Amanda Serrano on it, since almost every single list that's out there has the both of them somewhere in there, but the rules for this list are a little different. No fighter, absent of a world title, coming right off a loss, is allowed to maintain a rank until such a time as they return to the winner's bracket. You have to prove that you've got it, that you've still got it. It's not just what you've done in the past, it's what you're doing now, how you're doing, how are you holding up? Are you still one of the best fighters in the world? Can you prove it? These are the current updates to the women's Ring IQ pound-for-pound list. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, yesterday on the undercard of Schofield versus Hirong, we saw Uzbekistan's amateur standout Bektemir Melikuziev take on America's own David Stevens, 14-1 with 10 KOs going in. Not exactly a somebody in a super middleweight division for what was intended to be a super middleweight contest, but Bektemir Melikuziev ended up blowing the weight, so he came in at about 170. As he already wore out his welcome in a super middleweight division before even getting the chance to fight for an alphabet title. Is he busting at the seams? Does he need to move up? I'll be honest, I'm not impressed with Bektemir Melikuziev, and I've been watching him. I've been paying attention. I don't like what I see. Got his face all mocked up yesterday, cut over his eye, busted nose. What I think is a good example of how not every great amateur makes a great pro, because as an amateur, Bektemir Melikuziev had a lot of success, but as a pro, and I'm not trying to castigate him for the sake of castigating him or piling on, but he didn't look impressive yesterday. Being honest, I haven't been impressed with Bek the Bully at all. He seems clumsy to me. Of all of the Uzbek imports we've been seeing the last 3 or 4 years, MJ Akhmadaliev at super bantamweight, Shakram Gayasov at super lightweight, Israel Madrimov at junior middle, big Uzbek Bakadir Jalalov at heavy. They've all been more impressive to me, more impressive than Bek the Bully, who only really seems to be a bully, if he even is a bully, against a certain level of competition. I mean, things really haven't gotten serious for Bek yet, with good reason. He needed 2 fights for 1 win over a journeyman and Gabe Rosado. That was a setback. I know that Gabe is well-traveled, well-schooled, hell of a lot more experienced than Bek was when they fought, but the basic idea is, if you are a world beater, if you're that kind of amateur going into the paid ranks, then you should make it past a Gabe Rosado, and Bek didn't. Not the first time. He needed 2 fights for 1 win, but he got it. And he's been fighting. He's been active. He fought 3 times last year. He already fought 2 times this one. He was in action yesterday against David Stevens, but I can't say that I was impressed with what I saw. So Bek's got a hop, like Israel Madrimov's got a hop, staying on the balls of his feet, moving around, jumping around when Bek does it. It looks clumsy, uncoordinated. Bek looks open for counters, big counters against better quality of opposition than, say, a David Stevens. The guys that Bek has been fighting, that if you step him up, he'll get knocked out again. 15-1 with 10 knockouts, having been knocked out once in 16 professional bouts. It doesn't appear to me that he learned his lesson from the Gabe Rosado fight. The same openings still seem to be there.
That got him knocked out?
Those leaping hooks and leaping body shots that he throws, just bouncing around. I think his hands are too low, far too low for too long in a fight.
He's strong.
You don't want to let him hit you clean. You don't want to let him catch you clean, Beck the Bully. He's strong, but, I mean, a lot of guys are strong at 168 and 175. That doesn't warrant, that doesn't justify fighting with your hands as low as he does. These defensive lapses in judgment that he's already paid for. I don't see a fighter who's getting better.
Seems like a lot of flash.
Attempts to be flashy, hopping around the way that he does, trying for those leaping hooks, leaping body shots, looping punches. It seems like a guy who's trying to be flashy. Maybe he thinks he's faster than what he actually is. Golden Boy is keeping him busy. They are getting him fights. He fought 3 times last year. He fought 2 times this one. Though he's lacking a sense of direction that where does Beck the Bully fit in to that super middleweight picture or that light heavyweight picture, since he couldn't make super middleweight for last night's fight?
Where does he fit in? Who would you pick him to beat at 168 pounds?
Who would you pick him to beat at 175? Those defensive holes, they're big.
Can be exploited. They already have.
It's just an observation. You can feel free to disagree, but I am not sold on Beck the Bully. Not in the least.
Nope.
And it doesn't help his situation how political things have become at super middleweight. Some of the more known super middleweights are over there at the PBC. One or some of the others are at Matchroom.
Diego Pacheco, Edgar Berlanga.
Top Rank's got Christian Mabili, and I think they have Jaime Munguia. At least they did in Jaime's last fight. Whilst Beck the Bully is isolated at Golden Boy Promotions, because what other super middleweights do they have? What's the biggest fight they can make for Beck the Bully, whether it's at 168 or 175? He seems to be in the wrong place.
Either way.
And that is on top of Beck the Bully not showing much, if any, improvement fight by fight. That's on top of him not getting better.
He won a decision yesterday, a split decision.
Just being honest, I don't think it's looking good for Beck. At 168 or 175. Wherever he goes now, whatever he does, I'm just not seeing a world champion. Maybe I'm wrong. Finally, elsewhere in the world of boxing, I'm sure most of you have heard by now, Frank Warren has inked a deal with DAZN.
I told you this would happen. I literally told you last year.
This will see Frank Warren's Queensberry Promotions shows aired on the DAZN platform as of April of next year. Frank Warren said, "I could not be more pleased that Queensberry is joining DAZN. This is a brilliant move for our fighters and most importantly for the fans. Their ambition and passion for the sport of boxing aligns perfectly with that of our own, and we now look forward to putting on the biggest nights possible." Son George Warren reacted by saying, "Queensberry arrives at the home of boxing. DAZN multi-year deal. Let's go."
Was not always thus between Frank Warren and DAZN. When the platform first debuted in America and tried to make their bones in the United Kingdom, Frank Warren was one of many promoters that were shading the platform, saying nobody's getting seen on there.
Those fights ain't getting watched. Frank Warren, Bob Arum, Leonard Ellerby.
Especially Leonard.
And how is Leonard Ellerby doing these days? We already knew as of last year that Frank Warren's existing deal on BT Sport, renamed TNT Sport, was going to be up in 2025. And it appears that he's making a move, he's making a change.
If you can't beat them, join them.
It's smart. It's smart is what it is. DAZN has fast become the authority in global boxing in the sense that if you want to watch boxing on an international level, then that's where you have to go.
Where you want your fighters to be.
For that international exposure. An outfit like Boxer on Sky Sports, they cater to a more local market, a more domestic market, the domestic UK boxing scene. And Frank does too, so does Eddie, but they have more robust stables. They have more going on, and you figure that now that Frank is in bed with DAZN, well, don't be surprised if he starts signing more international fighters, not just British fighters, but international ones like Brandon Lee, who they picked up.
I think that's flying a bit low on the radar, that Brandon Lee, so soon after inking a deal to the PBC, ended up jumping ship and going to Queensberry.
And we might see more of that in the coming year, because the move over to DAZN enables Frank's shows to be shown to that many more markets, that many more more people, the American market included.
When I saw they did that Matchroom versus Queensberry 5-for-5 tournament, and how well Frank and Eddie are getting on.
Brought together by Turkey LL Sheikh and his Riyadh season, and news that Frank's deal with TNT was going to be up in 2025, it dawned on me, Frank might go to DAZN, and if he does, that's actually good for us. That's good for the customers, because that's that much more boxing all in one place at one price.
Right.
So you get your Daniel Dubois, your Tyson Fury, your Joe Joyce, your Moses Atelma.
Your Fabio Wortley.
From the same place, you get your Diego Pacheco, your Bam Rodriguez, your Boots Ennis.
Your Matchroom shows, your Golden Boy shows.
And there are other smaller promotional outfits that are also working with DAZN, and their shows are being shown on the platform as well. It's value for money. It's the definition of value for money.
You know who ought to make that move? The PBC. They need to.
I came across an article from veteran boxing scribe Abraham Gonzalez detailing the situation, the year-in PBC as of their Amazon deal, and what it's been like.
As well as what we can expect in the coming year.
What's going on with Al Heyman? What's going on with his PBC? And what should we expect? Because we didn't get much this year. The article reads, it's widely known that Al Heyman, the owner of the PBC, is the man who pulls all of the strings. Lately, that hasn't felt as much the case, with the schedule not being as robust as it was in the Showtime era. There were rumors throughout the summer that he was ill, and other rumors that he had a death in the family. In August, Alan Dawson, formerly a writer for PBC, published an article at World Boxing News asserting that Al Heyman was back. Dawson noted that in addition to the recent matchups we've seen, more big fights were planned, including Tank's return in November that has since been scrapped, Spence versus Fundora in December that has since been moved, and a future bout featuring Manny Pacquiao against Mario Barrios that has since gone cold.
None of those anticipated fights are happening this year.
Current discussions suggest they'll be scheduled for early next year, with the exception of the Pacquiao versus Barrios fight, which seems unlikely to happen at all. Mario Barrios is now set to fight on the November 15th Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson undercard. Meanwhile, rumors about Al Heyman's health persist. Rick Glacier has posted claims that Heyman is unwell, casting doubt on his supposed return. As reported in August in a World Boxing News article, Jermall Charlo also fueled these concerns in an Instagram story, mentioning that Heyman was sick and that fighters were on their way to arrange bouts. If true, Heyman's absence could be directly impacting PBC's reduced activity. All of this is quite interesting, and when reaching out to Prime Video for their take on the partnership with the PBC during their inaugural year, Prime's public relations representative replied, "Thanks for reaching out and appreciate your interest. However, we are going to pass here at this time." Most would say if you had something good to say, you'd probably want to brag about it. When you don't have something good to say, that's when you keep your mouth shut. I'm not saying this is the case with Prime Video, but it does make you wonder.
So when it was announced last year that Showtime was going to be leaving boxing, the people at DAZN expressed an interest in picking up the PBC, bringing that stable to their platform. Needless to say, that didn't happen. Al Heyman and those guys, they wanted to go another route. They wanted to go to Amazon. A year later!
Does it look like they made the right decision? A year later, Frank Warren's jumping into bed with DAZN.
Professional rivalries aside, he did what's right for business.
What's good for business? Why didn't Al Heyman do that?
Because he's not a good businessman.
In case you haven't realized that yet.